I was talking just the other day to a conference of very successful women in business, and a question was asked about fertility. You know, what's going to happen to fertility in future? Well, there are several trends that are operating, and also some interesting signs. Firstly, let's look at the trends. We all know that many women have put off childbearing for a very long time, but as leading experts in neonatal care have continued to remind us, there are risks for a woman having an older child, and they're not just the risks of not being able to conceive in the first place. They're not just the risks of producing a malformation of some kind. They are risks themselves of the way in which the child is forming in the womb, risks in delivery. You know, as a doctor, I have to say, in a labour ward, you can usually tell a baby from an older mother from a baby from a younger mother just by the appearance. You may think that's a little strange, but babies from younger mothers look quite different. They're often, they look, it's hard to describe, but they look younger. Babies from older mothers are often much more crinkly, and it's fascinating. The older mothers get much more problems with blood pressure, with preeclampsia. They get much more problems in the delivery process. Death in the process of giving birth is much commoner for the child that's being born. There are also challenges in terms of child rearing, in terms of emotional age, and it's not a question of whether the mother is biologically young enough in terms of her heart and her kidneys and her general stamina to keep up with a 3-year-old at the age of 65 that she's just given birth to. No, I'm talking about emotional age, the ability of, let's say, a 55 or a 65-year-old mother who's just given birth using all kinds of technologies to store her eggs and so on. The ability emotionally of a much older person to really get inside and under the skin of a young child, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and to keep pace with that speed of change and the demands emotionally, physically, psychologically of that child as it's growing up, to perhaps being a teenager when the mother is now 80, to being at university when the mother is 85, and so on. Now maybe you say these things don't matter, but actually I have to say that these are untried experiments, and in the meantime there are costs. The fact is that even with the best technology in the world, it's still going to be expensive to allow someone at the age of 45, 55 to have a child by some kind of artificial means. And fertility itself is becoming expensive. Most people don't realize that the chances of a woman becoming pregnant at the age of 43 or 44 naturally are the same as through artificial means. In other words, both are low. And the fact is that artificial insemination, in vitro fertilization, all of these things can be much more complicated than we think. The success rates can be lower than we think, and the results can be very disappointing. So the vast majority of children in future will continue to be born to mothers around the world who are giving birth naturally, they are conceiving naturally, and we must remember in that context, of course, that 4 billion people in the world have only a few dollars a year of healthcare spent on them. So for them, we are certainly going to see natural everything continue.